All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the BBC, the Bordweall Broadcasting Company. We've had a couple of technical challenges getting getting ready for the show. Renegade, the tiny dragon, her camera decided not to work at the last moment, so we have a substitute image for her. Me, we have my usual kind of like little gift bouncing around because if I do actually wear the mask and everything like that, it is very difficult for me to try and read the screen and type and everything like that at the same time. So the only person that we actually have live is Xerr, and he's sitting still as a statue. Wave or something, Xerr, so that we can. There we go. There we go. We do
Very
actually
nice.
have somebody that is live on here. All righty. So let's see. The studio was off for vacation. We've not had an awful lot of new stuff come out. Let's say in the last 2-3 weeks, we are going to go over some of that. And there's, I kind of like I get the feeling, talking to various people in the community, not just in ours, but obviously I get messages from quite a lot of people. From the differing servers and communities, etc. And able to keep kind of like a little bit of a finger on the pulse. And there's kind of like this almost like unease, so to speak, that is starting to certainly creep in a little bit more. So the positives that we're going to talk about, we're going to switch over to Xerr here in just a moment because he has some really nice competitions and contests coming up. And we want to, I think it's important to show some of the positives that the community is doing. We're going to also in the second half of the show address some of the negative threads that are going out there. Address perhaps some of the comments in there. Certainly want to see your comments here in the sidebar in the chat channel. I'll be able to try and address those as we chat as well. And the goal here isn't to bash on SBS, even though perhaps in a couple of little areas it's deserved, as much as trying to explain, at least from my point of view, what's going on and what's happening, and should we be concerned, should we not be concerned, kind of thing. So, without further ado, Xerr, let's hand this over to you. You had asked to be a guest on the show to help promote a couple of contests that you've come up with, and you can, during your presentation, you can ask Alex to go ahead and put up the one or two images at
All
your
right.
convenience. All right, handing it over to you.
All right. So I've got 7 contests coming up, one every month for the next 7 months, starting next month. This coming month, there's going to be one starting the first week of February, and it'll end the last week of February. That way I've got time to go over all the entries, etc. But this one, what it's going to be about kind of giving back to the community in that, and also helping each other out, because February, everyone thinks love, etc. So I was like, brotherly love. And the title of the contest, ironically, in that sense, is Make Love, Not Kippick.
Are you serious?
Yes, it is. Because some love is just unacceptable. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, don't make it fit.
So what the contest is going to be about, the official post will come out the first week of February. So everyone watching on the BBC kind of gets an early informational here. So kudos to you guys. But what it's going to be is it's going to be a contest for people to generate art assets that can be used by the greater community for recruitment pages, for just your lore, all that kind of stuff. If you want to put up that first image now, tell me when you have it up.
Okay, just confirming you're wanting to do the assets first or the full poster?
Nope, the full poster.
The full post.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And it should be up
Yeah, no,
there.
no kidding, Borne. Yes, this image was not lifted from Pinterest.
So I threw this together. It didn't actually take very long. It took me like 40 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less. And this is built out of, I believe it was 11 different assets. And then, of course, text. And I'll be honest, I cannot read it from over here.
It says, attention, come one, come all to Xerr's contest extravaganza. Make love, not kippick. This contest is about brotherly love, and in that spirit, we begin with this contest. This poster here is an example of what we are looking for. Art assets for your fellow Illyrians, so that we can all be as fancy as Xerr, Lycurgus von Tatabes. Have at it. Hopefully I managed to get the pronunciation not too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, it's a long name. Yeah. So if you want to pull up the next one now with the assets, you'll see that this is all the different parts that went into that cool looking backdrop for the text effectively. And the idea for this contest is going to be people making things like this that can be stapled together, for others. Because you see a lot of fancy banners here and there. And, I know that there is definitely a few websites out there that have assets for sale, etc. But not everyone, I've done a lot of surveying of the community and how much they've invested, especially now. When we're in, like you said, there is kind of this weird lull and this hesitancy going on. So giving people access to art assets for free, effectively, so everyone who contributes to the contest will basically building a library of assets for the greater community to use. And I think that'll help out everyone. And then, of course, the people who contribute, of those ones who contribute, there will be a prize pool. And there is, for this specific contest, there's going to be no limit to entries. And I will look at it as a per asset basis. So if you have, say, that skull with the, the little border on it, or the banner piece, each of those would be considered an asset and looked at individually for basically the quality, how well easy they are to integrate with other things. Let's see, things like clarity too, like how useful it is going to be for the greater community, because it's important that each asset not be dependent on being, a specific typeface, or not typeface, but styles are fine, but you want to be able to mix and match to a degree. And also thinking along those lines, unless your asset can be connected vertically, you don't really want to hit the maximum width possible on COE's website, which is 650 pixels, if I recall.
That is correct. Yes. So basically, what we're looking at here is we're looking at some fantasy art style assets to help people within the community, regardless of what server they're on, to be able to create their own, using these mix and match assets, to be able to create kind of like their own announcements, their own recruitment posts or declarations, or use it as a backdrop for some lore or something like that. And the idea is that these are modular pieces. So you've got, as you can see, you've got the corner pieces, you've got, headers and footers, you've got a background image. And so you can make the image basically as tall as you want, but the width shouldn't exceed 650, because that's what's, that's the pixel limit that we have for images on the COE forums. And hopefully some of the members of the community that are a little bit more, let's say, artistically challenged, can make use of these. I presume that what you're going to do is you're going to host them somewhere, like on a Google Drive or something.
Yep.
People will
The
be
idea
able to
is to host
download them.
and make it so that it's just widely available. And it's going to be in the post itself, but all submissions are going to be under the Creative Commons license. So the idea is, as long as you're not trying to sell it, people can use these art assets. They're still yours. If you submit them, they're private, etc. You're just giving, common use for the CWE community. Let's see.
So are you thinking with these are going to be things that should include like COE specific style art, or just kind of general uses for bordering, or a combination of the both? I'm asking if I can do it in crayons like I do everything else.
I think it could be a combination of any, right? I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I agree. Anything can work, because honestly, most things you can kind of make it work, honestly, because like this was assets I purchased originally for my own use for like D&D and such.
I see you are a nerd of taste.
Yeah. For me, what's interesting about this, I mean, you could, whoever's going to be creating this, you could have it, kind of like, I would call the one that you've put up kind of like generically themed, right? That was for me, a generic set of assets that could be applied to a whole wide variety of uses and purposes. But if you wanted to submit one, for example, let's say that you could think of some really, really neat assets for a poster or announcement that's kind of like aimed at, let's say, blacksmiths or warriors.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Or you could make one, for Kipik, or you could make one for Bordweall or Genoan, etc. Literally, it is kind of like, you're limited only by your imagination and I guess your artistic skills, and it's there to help those who have very few or no artistic skills, I guess is the best way to do it. What kind of prizes are going to be up for this first one?
So this first one, let's see. Let me grab out my handy dandy phone. So 3 sets of prizes, and they scale in value from 3rd place to 1st. The 3rd place is Naren statue. 2nd place is a pair of Naren statues, and 1st place is a pair of Foxalots and a pair of Naren statues. Because it's kind of the love theme, so the whole fertility thing and a pair of breeding foxes seemed like a good idea to me.
Excellent.
Foxy.
Very, very good. Renegade, do you have any comments or thoughts on?
Just that we're gonna definitely display some high quality art crayon work coming from, and I'm more enthusiastic to see what other people come up with.
All righty, excellent. And just a very quick, before we transition over to talking about some of the the threads that are going on at the moment and everything. So give us just a very quick brief rundown of maybe what the topics of some of the other contests are going to be in the upcoming month.
Oh yeah. So, and then actually just to go over prizes too. So total across all 7 contests, there is $530 of prizes. Starting with across this one, that's it totals out to about $75 of prizes for this month's. And the themes for, let's see, so March is going to be, the title of it is Stars Can't Do It, Not Today. As you can tell, there's a lot of references going to be in the contests. And that's going to be looking to the future and planning. That's going to be more kind of, my current idea is helping the average, say, mayor or guild kind of build a template to work with and kind of plan for what they may do in the future. And then April, we've got Let Me Get a Look at the Menagerie. This one is going to be interesting. I'm still deciding on exacts. It's the theme is monkey business, and it's going to have the first prize is a few different of the animals that have been up for grabs. And then May is Brave Sir Robin. It's going to be another marketing one. More than likely, that one's also going to be an asset-based one. And then June is Party on Garth. And that one's going to be about festivals and different ways to spice up the COE community and culture. Because that's something, too, that I think is going to be really cool and important about COE is all these different players generating their own cultures within their, their communities, and how vastly different the servers are going to be, and how vastly different, even regions are going to be, and how people can display that. June, July is Strange Brew, and it might be another asset thing, but I think in general, it's going to be assisting with helping people recruit, and also it's going to be what's it called? Very alcohol related, obviously.
That'll rule the Bordweall out then, won't it?
Quite. And then August is The Night is Dark and Full of Terrors, and it's going to focus around defense. It's going to be defense themed.
Very cool.
So there's going to be quite a lot out there. There's just to list a couple of the prizes and other things. There's a beer party. There's the Bardo wagon. Actually, there's a couple beer parties looking at these.
No advent calendars or loot boxes, though, right?
Oh, God, no. No.
Okay.
I just want to say that, like, this is the kind of stuff that, like, really excites me about the community. Like, this kind of stuff that somebody would put this much work into a game that we have nothing to play with yet, but we can still interact with the community.
Well, this for me kind of like, does it reflects kind of like the positive thing. And I know a lot of us, myself included, have kind of like taken a little bit of a step back, and we'll kind of like transition to talking about some of the stuff that's going on. I mean, without hopefully exaggerating, I mean, I used to put in anywhere between 20 to 40 hours a week, for our community, helping to build it, helping to, make our own assets, our own artwork, obviously the live streams that we do here, etc. And I think that Soulbound Studios, or Chronicles of Lyria, is very blessed to have the kind of community that we have. I think it's a relatively mature community, for the majority. And it's very passionate, it's very supportive. But I think that, with some of the things that are starting to transpire, it's starting to, sour a little bit, and kind of like people are getting impatient.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had this kind of like this ongoing thing of, for me, it boils down to basically Caspian's deliberate policy, I guess, culture of over-promising and under-delivering. And I think that people have gotten tired of that. For the one that I've kind of like used, behind the scenes and everything like that, in talking with others about it, is it's like the boy who, the Greeks knew about this. It's like the boy who cried wolf, right? In Aesop's fable. It's every time we hear, oh, this is coming out, something's coming out, and it's a valid way to market stuff. As long as it's not long term and to the same people over and over again. Because if you keep telling the same people or the same villagers that there's a wolf attacking the sheep, and they keep running out every time, and there's no wolf, sooner or later they're going to say, "Fuck, I'm not coming out every time you cry wolf." And I believe that this is what we're starting to see here. I mean, you have kind of like what I would call the three groups, kind of like within the community. And I think that this is pretty much true for any pre-launch community waiting for a game to come out. And what you're looking at is you're basically looking at, you'll always have the White Knights. And, they make up, maybe the top 5% of the community. And the studio, again, regardless, it doesn't matter whether it's Soulbound or Bethesda or ZeniMax or Electronic Arts or whoever, they will always kind of like, even if the house is on fire, they'll say, "No, everything's okay," kind of thing, we're absolutely fine. And then you've got, and again, I'm just going to make it easy that they're the top 5%, right? And on the other end of the scale, you've got on the bottom 5%, you've got the naysayers, something that I believe Caspian had labeled as the harbingers of doom. And these are the people that, generally speaking, will always kind of like find something negative, even if it's positive. Even if the game comes out, they'll still be bad mouthing. They'll find something wrong with it. It's, "Oh, it wasn't this," or "It wasn't that," etc., etc. And then you've got the majority of us, the 90% of us, kind of like in the middle, and we vary, right? It's kind of like a gradient. If you think of the White Knights obviously as being white, and the harbingers as being black, and so the solid black 5% on one end, the solid white on the other, the rest of us are kind of like in this grayscale gradient in between. And what happens is that the more often, most of us start off as neutral or even actually pumped and hyped, right? This is why we put money. This is why we donated. This is why we've been following for 3 years. So I would tend to say that we're kind of like, initially would certainly lean more towards the White Knight side, but not kind of like, not blindly, not blind believers, if that makes sense. But the more that these situations happen, the easier it is for us to start slipping over kind of like to the gray side, to the darker side, for want of a better way of phrasing it. And I think that it's not that it's irretrievable, but the longer this kind of stuff goes on, the more difficult it's going to be to kind of like to pull some of that 90% back towards kind of like the positive side, Right now, just looking at some of the recent posts and everything, they are what I would call the gray or the darker posts. What are you guys' thoughts on that? And I'll catch up with what's being said in chat and address those as well.
I think you just called the whole COE community sad. Oh, I really agree with that. I feel like it's very hard. Like, even our shinies, like, I went back to look at last week's shiny and the pictures are deleted. Like, I don't even know what it was. I was like, I just look at pictures and I was like, oh, okay. And it didn't even surprise me, honestly, that it was gone. And it sucks because it's like, this is something we're all super enthusiastic about and we want to see it succeed. And then we're sitting here and we're just getting sad and sour. And these are the, like, Xerr's competitions, I think, are really good for the community because it's one of those things everybody can get excited about, because we're not getting that from the studio right now, which is good because there's only so much hype we can have when there's nothing to play with. I want to like grab the community and say, let's go and have fun, but there's nothing to go and have fun.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's something where, there was too much buildup and it was too much hype too early instead of a much slower gradual. So now we're like, oh, we did all of our hype and then nothing happened, and so our hype is gone. and you can't really maintain that level of hype. It's either a lot of it just drops off. But there's been little community events, which to me, I don't know, some of them have been really, it's just been kind of odd to me because a lot of them feel like busy work, like the plague. I don't know, at least to me personally, it felt like a lot of busy work. It was odd. I don't know. Maybe I'm a singular person in that matter, but the last couple big community events were kind of like, they were spreadsheets, not even fun Eve spreadsheets.
Wow.
Well, for me, it's like, I understand that kind of like, the web-based events are different to obviously the coding of the actual game.
Yeah.
They're not related, but to me, I would think that it is easier to make a web-based event than it is to make the actual game. And let's face it, this is a very ambitious game. This is part of what drew many of us to it. The fact that this is different. This is kind of like meant to be a new genre defining MMO, And for me, if they can't get a fucking website event to work, not once, I mean, I think most of us are mature enough to understand shit happens. Sometimes something doesn't work, etc., or something balked. But I can't think of a single event that they've put out that went smoothly. And this kind of like, this leads on to one of the topics in the recent posts. In fact, it's number 2 on the recent posts thing as I'm looking at it. And it's asking, is this vaporware? In fact, the title itself is just vaporware. And, I guess it depends in a way as to how you define vaporware, because I guess that accusation can be made of any game that's in development, right? And unless you actually have the game to show that it isn't vaporware, you can take either side of that discussion. For me, vaporware would almost be tied in with, is this a scam? Is there an intent to actually publish the game? And I do believe, and this is just my own personal opinion and everything like that, I do believe that the team at Soulbound Studios is very passionate, in fact, to a fault, and probably overly passionate, which I think is leading to a lot of these problems. And I do think they're working on the game, and I do think that it will come out at some point. But to be where we are right now, early part of 2020, and let's face it, in 2016 we were meant, they were talking about, we're going to get version 3 of the website out. Version 3 of the website is still not out.
I mean,
and sorry, Ren, I'll let you I'll turn over the chat in a moment.
I kind of want to counter it.
But also with, people are talking, domain and settlement selection, and it was kind of like, not this past December, but the December before, where they said, that domain and settlement selection is around the corner. People forget that actually Vi made a post towards the end of 2016 saying that, hey guys, layaways need to be taken care of soon. One of the reasons why we're stopping layaways in February, I think it was, or March of 2017, is because domain selection is going to be coming soon, and we need to have people, locked into their domains, etc. So it's been hinted to us that domain and settlement selection and the choosing of our domains would happen, sometime, let's say, between March and June of 2017. I challenged Caspian about this on the forums, and both in the forum and then in a subsequent public Q&A that they had, the response was, well, you guys shouldn't be questioning us. You don't know, you don't see what we see here at the studio. You don't know how much we've already got accomplished. At this moment in time, we don't see any reason to adjust our projections of when the game's being launched, etc. And, I'm referring, and actually I should have made this as an image that Alex could have put up. But there was this, if you remember the very, very first one, the one before the Cone of Certainty, is that, there was the V3 of the website, there was the MUD, there was the selection of the domains, then Kingdoms of Illyria, then there was going to be Alpha 1 beta testing, etc., etc. And it's like we've transitioned from actually, seeing stuff being developed for the game, and we're kind of like we're playing basically a couple of web events, for want of a better word, and this doesn't make me think that they're not working on the game, but I think the web events have been brought out specifically to again rekindle a little bit of hype, get us sucked back in on the wagon and everything, and people do come back for them. I mean, look at Kickstarterversary that we just had, the most successful fundraising they've had to date. So it does work for them, but I think each time more and more people kind of like, basically shut up. And I think one of the things Kickstarter was successful about is because they were still selling kind of like, the mayor packages, and the you could still get, I don't know if they had count packages come back at that time, but it was the last chance basically to buy land. Anyway, Ren, let's go back to you.
I mean, I would kind of counter it, like everybody was like, oh, their web events weren't very good or yada, 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 but they're not a website development company. And as somebody who works in computers saying, oh, well, they develop software versus web, it's different types of development. So like, my biggest thing is they set such a frantic pace of transparency. Every week we're going to show something. Every week we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And then once every quarter we're going to do an event. And that pace was so frantic and had them working on so many things that weren't the game, that to me, if I was a developer on that team, I would just be pulling my hair out with things that are not helping to move the project forward, not critical path to the success. And so when the studio's gone quiet like this, yeah, it's sad to me that I don't get to see pictures and I don't get to play games, but I'd rather have them work on the critical path for the success than have them be focused on these things like art assets that may or may not have the framing or the rigging or any of that kind of stuff done, or like this writing lore. Yeah, that's cool, but it's not critical path to the success of the game. It's probably already present. It just needs to get brain dumped. So yeah, web events, I'd like them, but I'd rather them spend the 100 developer hours they spend on that doing something in the game, especially because those are not web developers. And they just put out a post looking for a full stack developer, which, I mean, it's an expensive person they're looking to hire, and they're not going to get somebody cheap. And, if that means that they have to have a better website to increase the success of the game, then fine. But I would have maybe chosen to get another game developer, somebody who does assets or rigging or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And, I get that it might not be the same personnel and everything. I'm kind of like, I'm reading you guys' comments actually, and they're good comments down the side. We'll try and chat a little bit about about that shiny that came out, right? That mood piece a little bit. I mean, what a way to start the year off. You basically, the year was meant to end with a bang with the Settlers of Illyria. And it's, I literally, I don't even know quite how to phrase it. It's like, I'm sometimes dumbfounded by some of the shit that goes on is kind of like, is the best way for me to phrase it. I mean, you had in December of 2017 or November 2017, Caspian made a comment, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm paraphrasing it, and it might not be accurate, but it was basically along the lines of, oh, hey, we're not going to release domain and settlement selection in December because people are going to be on vacation, they're going to be traveling, they're going to be spending time with family, and we don't want to upset it. That was 2018, correct? Sorry.
That was the end of last year. They'd said that.
Yeah, and so we get that, right? It's kind of like, okay, well, that sounds reasonable. That sounds like they're trying to look after the community, and they're trying to be considerate and everything like that. But the fact of the matter is domain and settlement selection could not have been fucking ready for them to have postponed it for December anyway. And now you've got, in this December just past, when they do have something that's coming out, Settlers of Illyria, it's not a problem for them to do that while people are traveling on vacation, spending time with family and everything like that. And we all know how that launch came out. It was a disaster. There's no other way to phrase that other than for the studio. It was a disaster because it crashed. I mean, it's still not up. We're here on the 20th of January,
Yeah, and it really was like, it was a letdown. And I mean, they're really trying for transparency. They're doing their damnedest. But I would, as a developer, and I have done development, I've been on projects like this, would never ever want to be this transparent with a client, because you do have bumps and you do have things, but a lot of the times as a developer, your job is to fix the bugs. So you don't need to say we had 300 bugs in the program, because your job is to fix the bugs.
See, I don't think they're transparent, Renegade. I don't think that they're transparent at all, to be quite honest with you. At least not when it comes to the actual development of the game. I guess it depends upon how we interpret transparency. But for me, transparency would be saying, December 2018 is saying, hey guys, we don't have domain and settlement selection ready yet. It's not going to be ready. We're actually postponing it until the second half of next year. Not this, setting up dates and times and that it's going to be running, and then not telling us until the last moment. I mean, look how many times we're meant to have we were meant to be in mud.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until the last moment. It was like, oh, hey, guys, we've come out with something better. We're coming out with Vox Illyria. And again, that was made public. And everybody got hyped and excited. I haven't played Minecraft because to me it's too blocky and everything like that, right? But when they announced that Vox Illyria was coming out and how it was going to speed up development, and they had this thing of, hey, I don't know if any of you remember the video where they had kind of like the split screen, where they had the guy jumping up and down in Vox Illyria, and he was actually jumping up and down what we thought was in game, right? In the UE4 engine, and how this is going to be brilliant and wonderful, and that we were all excited and how it was going to speed up. And then we were told that it was going to be coming out, and that those of us with alpha access, I think we were meant to get into it, what was it, the latter part of 2017 originally. Then it got switched to December, and then it was like, well, we didn't say December. December was for friends and family. We're going to be launching it. You guys will have access early on in the year. And then that didn't happen. Then a specific date was set. And I don't want to get into too much of it because, again, I don't want to kind of like flirt with the NDA. But there was a thread in the NDA where those of us that were going to be getting into Vox Illyria were stoked and pumped in that month leading up to it. It was like, oh my God, we're going to be kind of like getting in 3 weeks' time. We're going to be getting in 2 weeks' time. Oh, hey, I look forward to seeing you in a week's time. And then 2 days before it's meant to come out, boom, hey guys, we're not going to be doing Vox Illyria. We're going to be doing the low asset thing. This is going to save us time. It's going to be a better way to do it. And again, there was kind of like there's logic and feasibility behind it, right? And it makes sense. But if all these things are meant to speed up and not delay production, how is it that we're sitting here in 2020 and kind of like, there's, we basically, we don't have anything we can put our hands on. I think we will be getting something this year to put our hands on, but yeah. And yeah, I appreciate the comment there, Lillian. I'm kind of like trying to be careful and skirt, but you know what? There's a part here also for me where the NDA is kind of like, it is pertaining to the game itself. I think that I'm not going to kind of like play to this kind of like catch-22 where, oh, you can't talk about the mistakes we've made because that's breaking NDA. That's like, I think that's an unfair thing. That's an unfair position to put us in, where we have to shut up and bite our tongues, and we're not allowed to comment upon it.
I think
But
with
sorry, go ahead, Ren.
I think with a lot of it is like it came down to the Kickstarter did not have a project manager on it. It had the lead designer. It did not have somebody who could say, okay, you need this and this, and it will take this long. So everything was put onto this really rushed schedule, which was really a very hyper aggressive schedule for an MMO. Most MMOs take 4 to 8 years to develop, not 3 or whatever it was that the Kickstarter was when they talked about it in 2015. We're at 5 years now, if you count the Kickstarter as well. Like, they were put onto this schedule that was never reasonable, and they never kind of adjusted for it. So them trying to keep up with that instead of just saying, okay, we just need to redo our schedule. Like, I think they now have a valid PM, but maybe.
But look, it wasn't until just 2-3 weeks ago that they finally, after us commenting about this for at least a year and a half, that they changed their official info that was on the website, where it said, hey, we're starting Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 in 2018, and the game will be out at the end of 2019. And despite, I know of at least probably 3 or 4 threads that addressed that over the last 18 months, where it was brought to the studio's attention. And I don't buy that that's kind of like tough and difficult to do, I'm an old fart and kind of like, challenged with some of this website stuff, but I can make a text change to a website that's been put up because the format is already there. All you do is you actually change the text. That's it. It's a 20-30 second copy paste.
No, that I'm not disputing. They could have, but then either they give no estimate or they have to do an announcement. Like, with a community the size of COE, they have to do an announcement. They have to make it clear. They have to give explanation. So I think the mentality was, okay, this is a Band-Aid that's really going to hurt when we rip it. We'll just leave it a little bit longer. Which isn't good community management.
But that isn't transparency, is it? That's not transparency, at least not the way that I interpret it,
No, that part is not. When I say transparency, I mean like the development transparency. Like, look what we did this week. Look what we did this week. That kind of transparency versus this is where we.
See, to me, that's frequency of communication, which I like, and I appreciate and I enjoy from the studio, but again,
you're right. You're right with that. That is frequency of communication. I think that was what set the frantic pace and kind of. I could see it burning your devs out.
I see as well, a few things. Is one, something tied into the frequency of communication is, at least me personally, I get annoyed at the redundancy of communication. Like, how many times have we had the same conversations, that are, yes, it's new to some people, but it just feels annoying. we've had to rehash some of the things. Also, how many public questionnaires or interviews have there been?
They do that about once a week, which what I will tell you with other game studios, that is, or it's not once a week, like once a month. That's pretty standard, but usually when you're closer to development, because I mean, I follow a lot of games in development. That's a pretty good communication level, like once a month, like meet with the devs or state of whatever.
It's a public one, not just a 10K?
There is a public one. If it's other
the
than
public ones, they only do like every 3-4 months, from what I've seen.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I was just gonna say, is like there isn't too much of the public ones, far as if I recall,
and it's kind of like it's almost incumbent upon those of us that see the exclusive 10K ones to kind of like try and disseminate and be enthusiastic. It's like, what's the point I'm trying to make? One of the biggest assets I think that Soulbound Studios has is us, the community. You know, where I think the term nowadays that used for that is we're like evangelists.
Yeah,
is what it is. And so that 90% of us, right? If we're playing another game, I know when I was playing Life is Feudal, I know when I was playing Naval Action, when I was playing other games, I would talk to other people and say, oh yeah, and hey, by the way, we've got a community going for Chronicles of Illyria.
Absolutely.
And you want to come join us, you want to be part of this, it's going to be the next greatest thing. And everybody, whether they were on the OCE server, the EU server, NA West, NA East, there was this enthusiasm, there was this kind of like grassroots thing, which I think again is one of the positive things for the studio. Is we were bringing in so many people. I have to say that I kind of don't really talk about it that much in games I'm playing at the moment.
No, same here. I used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Now it's like, hey, this is one of my clan's rostered games, but it's like 2-3, like it's not the one we talk about. Like this is not the next chapter for us as a gaming. It's like maybe 5 or 6 games out, so it's not like a thing. Like we'll talk about it. This goes live. We talk about it here, but it's not the thing that we focus on.
Yeah, I really feel like, it's kind of mean to say, but I feel like Caspian's, it's like him personally, having these very aggressive schedules, etc. And yeah, looking at most MMOs, etc., that especially in a small team, that was never going to happen in that time frame. And I think that aggressive schedule is also why a lot of their people got burned out, and just kind of they've had these posts multiple times of, oh, we're working 80-hour weeks or something, some crazy stuff, and we need to start focusing on our family and da da da. And it's like, well, yeah, it never should have came to that,
Yeah.
It should be.
If you're not a developer and you don't work on a development team, you don't realize these projects are years and years, and every time you go into one, you need to not go at it like it's the last week of crunch time, because you will burn your team out.
And speaking of that, I know there have been a number of team members that have left. And I know some team members leaving is a normal thing. Like, also, it's normal for people, like, you do a job and then you're not connected to the project because you did your job. But like, there's some people that it's just like they disappeared, and it's just kind of weird that the specific people disappeared.
Well, also, your developers should not be interacting with your community at all. That's not something they should be doing. They're not the type of people to do that.
My feeling is this, and we kind of like, we need to me, I could actually talk about this for a long time, but I don't want to kind of like ramble. My feeling is that the studio is genuine, is that this is not a scam, that they are working earnestly and passionately on the project, and that at some point in time that, it will see the light of day. But for it to see the light of day, obviously it needs to be funded. Mm-hmm. And he's either going to have to put out, I don't know, maybe they can sell the engine that developed the procedural worlds for the maps, right? I mean, that was kind of like new and kind of like groundbreaking. Maybe it's maybe it's coming out with some, they've talked about kind of like, the pre-Illyria game thing. Maybe, that helps fund it, or they bring on a publisher. But I think until, as far as the community, and again, I'm speaking for myself personally, but my feelings are, and the input that I'm getting from the community, until we can get our hands now onto something tangible,
the community has learned its lesson and will be
yeah,
patient.
I think they're going to be reluctant to open up their wallets the same way they have in the past, kind of thing,
Oh no, that will absolutely not happen. We all have a money habit, which is, oh look, it's so fluffy, I want it, let me but we're going to be mad at ourselves after we buy it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is also is kind of like, I think, again, gamers in general, not just this community for COE, but gamers in general, kind of like, they will sour in these kinds of situations. Lillian has made a couple of points, and I've been, a member of quite a number of pre-launch communities and followed them. I have not seen anything quite as, I'm going to use the word disingenuous, as what has been coming out of, particularly out, from Caspian, in terms of where we are in terms of development. I'm used to seeing delays. I'm used to seeing basically fuck ups, where something is released. Oh, there's bugs in it, and it gets debugged again. That's what alpha is for, and beta, etc. But what they're doing right now, or what has been done, and we were told, first third of last year, halfway through, oh, we've learned our lesson. We're not going to do it again. We're fine. We're good. And yet, here we are. Same thing happened again with Settlers of Illyria, and so it's
what made me
it's a tough one. And the important thing to note here is I don't think there's anybody here that wants to see COE fail.
No.
We're all supporters. We're all passionate supporters of the game.
I have invested way too much in this for this to fail. Yeah. And I agree. It's just,
it sucks, but we could do nothing but sit and wait. It's the same with a lot of games. There are a lot of games like this, but
Soon TM, by the way, Lillian, was from WoW, way back when, almost 18 years ago. This is nothing. Some parts of this are not new, right? I think all of us can understand and appreciate that development usually takes longer than anticipated.
And something that I refer
to. Go ahead, sir.
I was just saying, something I personally refer to is, because I hear people like, oh, they've got all these millions of dollars, and I'm like, that's not that much money. The Witcher 3 was like, what, $81 million?
I don't think people understand how much you got to pay a developer. Like, these guys are not sit in your garage, do it in your spare time for free, people, because that's how indie side scrollers. Not that indie side scrollers are bad, but that's not how you get a AAA game.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, I completely understand certain things, and I give them a lot of credit for what the things that they've tried to do with what they have. But there's definitely a point of understanding the realities and that's part of the transparency, is being like, hey guys, we're an indie studio. This is going to take us like 8 years, but hey, stick with us along the road and we'll keep pumping out stuff for you to see. Because it's still just weird to me though that, like, I don't know, I feel like some of this sometimes, like, I appreciate the shinies, but on the other hand, I feel a lot of times, we're supposed to be at a point where it's the storm, and there's supposed to be a lot of production and content coming out in general, And I understand not all the content is something that's shareable necessarily, but I honestly would expect more than like a picture or two pictures at times of, of what we have for, this week or that. I do like Snipes' the way he handles things, how he
The little videos.
I think Snipes brilliant. I love
Snipes.
I love Snipes things. It's like, we can quickly segue on this one onto kind of like, that shiny that they put out. I mean, I don't have a problem with the mood piece that they created. I don't have a problem that, that it had, the watermark on it. It shouldn't have been shared. I mean, that's something that they keep internal. Stellafina was referencing that, and she made some very, very good points in the actual thread itself. Is that's not something that especially after you've had the fuck up of Settlers of Illyria not coming out.
They didn't need to show us.
To put something like that out and then say that, oh, the next shiny is being delayed because of bad weather. I mean, for fuck's sake, seriously? And Lillian, I believe that they have acted in bad faith, and I do support the project. So I do challenge your assertion being made there. Because that's like, and I'm not accusing you of being one, but that's being a white knight. That's to say, you can support something. You can support your child, but you can still tell your child off when you see they're doing something wrong, right?
Be disappointed when they've done something wrong.
Yeah. You can sit down and have a talk and have a chat with them and everything like. It doesn't make you love your child any less. You might be a little bit pissed off at them at that particular moment in time, but you don't stop loving your child.
We will never stop loving Snipe Hunter.
I don't tell people. I don't tell people I don't tell potential backers to support the game. But then again, I've never encouraged anybody to spend money on the game that they couldn't afford to lose. And and if your question is, D, if you believe they cannot be trusted, how do you then tell other potential backers to support the game? Yeah, I don't believe that on this particular issue they can be trusted. How can I would actually flip that back? What are you basing your trust upon at this moment in time? What are you trusting them on? The only thing that I can trust them on is that I believe they're passionate. I believe that they believe in the project. I believe that they are working hard to have the project come to light. But just because I believe those things doesn't mean that they haven't lied to me personally. I've actually had a threat made against me by one of the members of the studio. I don't want to get into that here, but it is not, it's just a mistake and they missed a deadline by a couple of months. There is a systematic, almost like corporate culture of stringing us along, With all the information I have right now, what I bought the pledge package, Izmir, yeah, I don't have any regrets. I don't have any regrets on making my pledge. I expect there to be problems and delays and issues during the development of a game. I know that some games won't even make it. That's the reality of it, which is why I tell people, whether it was 3 years ago when we were all stoked and pumped or today, hey, look, only front the money if you can afford to lose it, because you like the idea of the project, etc. So yeah,
that was our 30 cents.
Yeah, exactly. See, Lillian, I'm basing my trust on that these devs want to make this game. That I 100% agree with you. At no moment in time have I said. In fact, I denounce anybody who says that the devs that it's vaporware or that it's a scam. I do not believe that. I 100% agree with you that the devs want to make this game. I expect mistakes as well. Those are inevitable in game development. I don't expect to be lied to. I don't expect to be manipulated. I don't expect to be told one thing and basically treated like a it's almost like an insult to our intelligence that we can't see what's going on. Seriously, the credibility of, hey, there's no shiny because there's bad weather, when Caspian very often has stated, oh, hey, I've got to wait till I get home because I have remote access to the studio, etc., etc. You know? And Izmir, that's a good way to sum it up. I don't have regrets, not overall or at all. I'm disappointed in basically how the community has been disrespected by some of the people in the studio, and I'm not saying everybody in the studio. You know, it's kind of sad. You know.
And
So
with
anyway.
that, we're at the top of the hour.
We are indeed at the top of the hour.
Oh man, gotta add something positive at the end of that.
Okay. So how about I mean, you know, my positive thing is that we're, funny enough, as weird as it might sound, my positive thing is that we're still here and we're still bitching about this. Because it means we still have faith. It means we still have faith and trust, and we're putting in time towards the game, right? There are a lot of people that have literally walked away from the game now, you know?
Yeah.
I'm still here. I still want it. Please give.
So, as just a little funny moment, I sent a image. I'm not sure if you guys are up for sharing. It's a fun image from when Caspian accidentally deleted the database.
Oh yeah, that was for the Syrian plague, wasn't it?
I think so. Was it? No, it was the friendship thing. Or was it? I can't remember. Maybe, I think it was the one before this. Wasn't there one before the Syrian plague?
It was something.
It was something like that. I remember that they were trying to do something. It might have been for the it might have been Conquest of Illyria, one of those
Yeah, I think it was
PAX East events and everything. And he was like, "Oh fuck! I just deleted the database." And
Yes.
I think it got delayed release by a year, and so not a year, by a day. And so you know, they are in some ways, you know, I look on those things as positive. It wasn't like, oh well, we fucked up, it'll be out next week. I mean, these guys, when they do make these fuck ups, they scramble. I mean, I can almost kind of like feel and sense the franticness as they try and resolve whatever the problem is that they made. But these problems are kind of like brought upon themselves, and so it's difficult for me to have empathy and sympathy. This exact situation that we're in with the community souring, you know, has been explained to Caspian literally 18 months ago by not just by myself but many people, that hey, if you carry on with this, the community is going to go. And here we are sitting today, and it didn't take a crystal ball. This wasn't like some weird, you had to go to 5 years and study a degree in kind of like, you know, in social dynamics to see how this is, you know.
Yeah, Adam had a pretty long conversation about this and how to avoid it in the future, in the voice chat and when Caspian was there. And so yeah, this has been discussed quite a few times. But you know, and things like the database issue, like when he oopsed, like that is very human to me. It's very what's the word? Like that's something that I can be like, oh, you can relate to, like, oh, that sucks. But you can be like, you know, you can see anyone doing that. And it's something that I am super okay with, you know, oh, they made a mistake. You know, they immediately were like, oh shit, they told everyone they made the mistake.
But you see, that is transparency.
Yeah.
I think that most of us had that exact same reaction that you did, Xerr, and we kind of like, we laughed. And we weren't laughing at Caspian, we were laughing with Caspian. Because I think most of us have had that oh shit moment where we've accidentally deleted a file on our own computers or something's happened. And this was where we could relate to him. And those kind of actions that Caspian was doing, I think were incredibly positive and kind of like we're bringing the community to, he was endearing himself to the community, right? I think.
And I think that if they were to stop, being like, oh shit, we screwed up, we need to, try and fix it behind closed doors and be more upfront about it, people would be a lot more willing to be like, okay, thanks for letting us know, we'll move forward. But it's the whole not hearing anything, last minute, hey guys, so the thing that we've been promising for like quite a while, for a while now, we've been thinking this probably isn't going to work. So it's not going to work. We're going to let you know now. Instead of like a couple months ago when it's like, hey, this sounds like it might not be a good decision, but let's keep running along this path and not say anything. That's what gets people upset and people annoyed. But if you're just like, hey, just understand this is something that we're interested in doing, but ultimately we're not sure this is the path we're going to go. We might end up, like with this whole, what was it, the Vox Illyria thing. There was ultimately really good reasons why they didn't do Vox Illyria. It was logical. But if they had earlier on and been like, hey, we've been kind of troubleshooting this stuff and kind of playing around thinking, this might not be the best way. If they let us just a heads up a couple months before or something, just even if it was just like a, just FYI, just to reiterate, nothing is set in stone, and things are starting to lean more towards something else. We'll talk to you in a month or two about what we do with this. Would have done amazing things to, I think, to smooth the process over.
Yeah. But we'll see and come back to it 2 weeks and talk about it again.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yep. And Lillian, let me leave. I would, I would much rather be talking about kind of like, the latest, greatest thing that came out from SBS. But to be quite honest with you, there hasn't been, has there? It's,
it's almost Kickstarterversary again.
Yeah, I mean, they fuck up with a shiny and then they want us to believe that they can't post an image or make a post on the website because of bad weather. I mean, seriously.
D, you're so hung up on this.
Yeah. Oh, well, I am, because to me it's laughable. It's again, to me it's insulting. That we're supposed to buy that and not comment on it, and we're meant to,
what?
That stuff. Yeah.
I feel like we should have ended on the contest, and then we could have ended on that high note.
Yeah, no, we should have. Definitely.
That's right. We should have had the made it a 10-minute stream and have left.
And done.
Okay. All right, guys. We hope to see you in 2 weeks' time. We hope that there'll be something positive that comes out from the studio, so that we can report on the positive stuff. Again, I think nobody here wants to see the project fail. But
and now that we've got you all a little bit stirred up, totally make entries for everyone's continued enjoyment of the community.
Absolutely. All righty. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you, Xerr and Renegade, for being guests, and Alex for producing.